Right, as promised, we are going to begin our draft series of different prospects that we're going to evaluate prior to the 2021 draft. Now, again, as a Packer-centric podcast, right, and that's what the Football First podcast is, the majority of the players we're going to look at are going to be players that fit positional needs for the Packers. Now, again, when you enter the NFL draft, the Packers have done a great job of not having to pick from need. And I look at this offseason as a great example. I look at losing Brian Bulaga, but signing Rick Wagner to give yourself a veteran that could play right tackle. It still didn't eliminate the possibility that they could draft a tackle, but it gave them a veteran replacement to alleviate the loss of Bulaga. Right? Same thing with Christian Kirksey. You lose Blake Martinez, you get Christian Kirksey. It doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to take an inside linebacker throughout the draft. And they did with Kamal Martin. They were lucky to find Chris Barnes as an undrafted free agent. And now that full recipe for acquiring players, draft, undrafted free agency, veteran free agency, put them in the position that ultimately they were able to fill that linebacker room and make the position better, right? So when we talk about positional need, we're going to evaluate and say, hey, based on what free agency looks like, what the salary cap situation looks like, what the overall roster makeup looks like, and where there maybe not be as much talent. Use running back as an example right now. Entering the season with Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, you would have assumed running back wasn't a place of high need. Why would they take A.J. Dillon in the second round? Well, while I wouldn't have evaluated it as a high need entering the draft, I also understand the complexity of impending free agents in Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, limited salary cap resources. A.J. Dillon makes sense. So the first prospect we're going to look at is Chris Olave, wide receiver from Ohio State. Part of the reason we're looking at Chris Olave is because the narrative has been out there that the Packers have a need at wide receiver, right? They have a need at wide receiver. Chris Olave is someone that probably stood out to a lot of us for the first time, if we're not paying attention to the draft, maybe as much as some people, because of his performance against Clemson in the semifinal game, right? So Chris Olave, wide receiver, from Ohio State, number 2 on the roster. He's number 17 in 2019. So if you're looking at film, you'll see 2 different numbers, which sometimes can be confusing for people. So I'm going to share my screen quick and just show what PFF's draft guide, now this is their preseason draft guide, says about Chris Olave. Okay, so Olave, 6'1", 188, entering his junior year. He, even when you watch him in tape, I think the first sentence makes a ton of sense, right? On the surface, he might not be terribly impressive, but he's solid. He's solid. And this year in particular, they really put him in positions where he's the jet motion guy. He's a slot receiver. He's an outside receiver. He's in their screen game. He's running outs. He's running verticals. I mean, really expanding the role that, is similar to how PFF describes here the role that Terry McLaurin played in 2018. If you look at overall grade, 2018, younger player, right, grading in the 70s. 2019 really is where he became a player that we all began to notice. PFF grading him at 85.1, which is really, really good. But here's the deal. 50 slots in the snap, 455 wide snaps, right? Targets, received a target sometimes can be something that you want to pay attention to because maybe there's drops. Maybe he's not winning in routes. I think when you watch Ohio State offensively, I think you see a variety of different things, right? Where sometimes you're targeted because they're taking a shot because they need to put stress on that defense horizontally or vertically, right? And then he had 12 touchdowns in 2019. Strength absolutely as a route runner. Doesn't seem to get a lot of yards after the catch, according to PFF. I think in 2020 you see a little bit more of that. I think they use him in a way where they're able to get him in a position where they can utilize him a little bit more after the catch. And I think you saw that in the screen game. You saw it with some of the Jet stuff. So that's Chris Olave. Big pros, polished route runner, may not have elite speed, but he can get on top of guys quickly. because he is such an effective route runner. He is dynamic in how he attacks with his releases. And he's really good moving laterally and horizontally, probably more than being a true vertical threat. Thinner guy, 188 pounds for an X receiver. Now, again, I think he has the versatility to move around. I would just label him as an X. And then again, because of the offense that Ohio State plays, sometimes it's hard to evaluate these guys. They get a ton of cushion. So, the speed outs that you're going to see in some of the clips, is he really, going to be able to do that against press coverage? When people are physical with him, one of my concerns would be, against press coverage, is he able to win those routes in a way that he's going to have to in the NFL game, right? He's not going to be able to just run an 8-yard speed out against off coverage and have Justin Fields take that throw, because that's the throw that's open, right? This is not going to happen in the NFL as much. So, things I'd be thinking about with Chris Olave is, body type, he has a decent frame. He is 6'1". I'd say probably when official measurements come in, going to be a little bit less than that, 188 pounds. I really don't think he should be much bigger, because he's not an extremely explosive guy. But he's going to win with his route running. So what you got to ask yourself is preseason projection, they're projecting him in the second round. Okay. Projecting him in the second round. As you look at around NFL draft circles right now, and you look at mock drafts, pretty consistently, that's where he is. I think the elite guys that are being talked about, right? Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, right? I think, and then even if you lump Kyle Pitts in there, right? I think those guys are in their own class. And then really after that, that's where this post-bowl workout season, right, combine season, is really going to determine who kind of moves up the board. And Olave absolutely could. There's obviously a bunch of names that we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. I wanted to show a clip that shows, and again, this is from a full game. This is actually the Nebraska game. You can see Justin Fields at quarterback. But, we just want to watch the route running here. He's in the slot. You see the off coverage, running a speed out, at about 8 yards against the safety. So again, safety off the ball, right, in a back pedal, in a position where safeties are going to give up cushion. But what you see is the efficiency in the speed, the rolling of the cut to break towards the sideline. You see him work back down towards the ball. So when I say he's a good route runner, he's not only a good route runner, he has done a good job of mastering the intricacies of the route specific to the offense, right? And that is, the rolling over the speed cut, working his way back downhill to the ball, catching it, it's easy first down, right? So let's roll it a little bit more, see a couple more clips here. He's circled on the screen. Again, number 2. You see him at the bottom of the screen, 2 tight end set in a 12 personnel look. Now, the one thing I would say, and you see it in that clip, is you don't see a ton of running, right? You don't see a ton of blocking from Olave. One of my concerns, especially when you think about the Packers, would be his ability to be effective in the run game because of what Matt LaFleur asks of the wide receivers, how he uses. Now, again, is Chris Olave going to play the same role that Aquemania, St. Brown, and Lazard play? Probably not, right? Maybe he's more of the jet guy. Maybe he's more of the one-on-one single receiver guy. But again, offensively, you have to think about the complexities of those roles and where would he actually fit into those roles, right? I don't really see him as a big-time blocker. Now, again, that's not saying he can't do it. That's not saying he can't be a good blocker, but the clips don't show a lot of him having to stalk, block, and big runs being hit because of blocks he's making downfield. Definitely not in the run game, seeing a lot of those clips. Mostly what you're seeing is him as part of the equation, like in here, simulating a screen and then Fields, emulating like they're running an option over to that side, right? Again, spread to the outside. It's another route, not in the progression. And again, as you see him, what you notice to me is different alignments, different positions that they utilize him in, which is always a compliment to his intelligence, to play within the offense in different positions. But it's also a compliment to, again, his route tree, the ability to run different routes. That comes from your ability, truthfully, right, to do different things, and not all players can do that, right? See him in motion here. Here's one of those jet motions. Again, carrying out the option with Fields on the run game. You see him in a bunch set to the bottom of the screen, running a crossing route into the end zone. Fields ends up keeping it. The biggest thing I noticed with Olave when you watch him, sorry, trying to scroll over here, is you see a guy that is a good football player, but I don't know if I see an explosive football player. And those are the things that, the scouting combine, the workouts, all the things that the Packers have to take into account, right, is this a good football player at the college level that has some elite skills, right? I think about it like with baseball, right? If you're thinking about, 5 to a player, right, does he have power, right? Can he run? And with Olave, one of his elite skills is he's a worker, right? So he is a good route runner. He does have good body control. He does have good balance. He does do a good job high pointing the ball. He's got good hands, right? So he checks some of those boxes, right? Is he going to run by people? Is he explosive? That's where again, we're going to have to watch more tape. We're going to have to see him in a combine setting. Obviously it'd be great, to see him in a Senior Bowl setting against elite players. But that's not going to happen. So that is our first breakdown. Chris Olave, wide receiver, Ohio State. We're going to continue to do these and have them posted on Fridays. This week we're a little bit late, so it's Saturday morning coffee and scouting for y'all.